Okay, so for anybody who's listening in, I'd like to introduce Linda. This is my mom. Yay! Which is great because it's very handy when I have to have my spiritual health check-ins. We all need to keep ourselves on track. It's really very important. And I think, especially in this day and age where there's just so much happening in the world, and people are feeling like they're in quite a lot of flux because I don't know if I'm the only one, but it feels like the world's spinning at a faster rate and things are just happening so fast. So, welcome, Linda. And it's so nice to have you talking to people and explaining to them a little bit more about what you do so that they can understand it a bit better and see if it's for them.
Thank you. Thanks. It's lovely to be joining you on Zoom. And I've got my sunshine yellow top on today because it's 28 degrees here and very hot in Africa. So
Wow. And I've got the
just
heating
flat
on and
one
it's
sort
4 degrees.
of. Okay. So I've
I
been
think,
doing this in the early 80s, and over that period of time, it feels like my whole life, really. When one starts a specific process, I thought I was starting this to go and listen to positive thinking lectures, and it turned out to be metaphysical lectures with the Divine Science group. And from there, I grew and I started to understand mysticism. And then I went and became ordained overseas because I wanted the information, not because I wanted the title, but I got it all. And the biggest the biggest asset in that process was learning the very, very basics of physics and how energy works and how energy flows and the biology of the body. And I've been doing complementary health with you since then. I've had various practitioner certificates given to me, which all got packed up and got lost in one of my moves. So I don't have any of those certificates to prove anything, but I don't need them. We think that we are our certificates and we think that we are our titles, but that's just the surface information. We are much more than that. And I've come to realize that I've put all of that aside and I bring myself now, my capital S self, to the moment, and that's what does the work. I'm just the instrument, and as they say, in the hands of the creative principle, and that's what I teach now.
I remember when I was younger, you would always be doing stuff that wasn't fashionable yet, and then everybody always caught on about 10 or 15 years later. So I remember you did this metaphysics thing way before it was even spoken of. Now it's like the latest thing, everybody loves metaphysics. And you were a reflexologist when it was still definitely a swear word, and everybody, I think, was praying for us as well. And so I grew up my whole life with you being this very much pioneer in this direction and sort of being one of the first, the forerunners, I would say, with regards to really pushing the envelope. And I know that for you along the road, it's been sometimes a difficult path because you've had to drop stuff that sometimes has become quite comfortable, creating sort of a home or a space within a spiritual community and then sort of having to step away from that. That can be hard. And I think for most people to step away from something that no longer serves the highest good. I wouldn't say just like doesn't serve you. It almost doesn't serve the highest good. I think a lot of people, when they do this, they feel, oh, maybe I'm being selfish. But actually, you're also holding other people back if you're just staying in a place where you shouldn't be anymore. So I always thought that was amazing, and it inspired me to also step away from, sometimes it took me longer than I should have, but step away from relationships that weren't serving the highest good. Step away from friendships that maybe, weren't serving the highest good. And that takes courage sometimes.
Well, it's all about resonance. If you're no longer resonating at a specific frequency that has worked for you in the past, because now you've grown and your resonance, your frequency has changed, the frequencies that don't match up with that will fall away. And I mean, I've done a lot of courses on therapy courses. I've got all the certificates, which I lost in a box, which I've just said. But so I've used the tools over the years, from color therapy to the complementary health therapies to energy therapies and so on and so forth. So I went from hands-on work to hands-off work because, and I said to someone this morning who said her heart is very slow and they're very worried about her, and she's got to have this whole EEG or whatever next week, and she's working on her heart. I said, no, don't work on your heart. Work on your consciousness. You never work on the problem, because while you're saying to your heart, you've got to pick up your resonance, you are in fact saying to your heart, you're not doing what you should be doing. You're not beating as you should be beating. And you are reaffirming that to the organ all the time. That's not what you must change. And this is a very delicate fine line that people need to learn to walk, that they've got to change their consciousness. I was saying to somebody else this week that all these tools, that the therapies and the tools that are available, whether they are light tools, sound tools, whatever the tool is, and I've used them over the years and they really work to a point. But if you don't change your consciousness, those things that we've been worrying you will come back, because consciousness is who we are. It's the absolute programming of this that we call an identity and a temple. So I said to her, don't work on your heart. Work on changing the way you've seen your life, the heartbreak you've had in the past. Your eyes are playing up because you're not seeing that aspect clearly. So when you start changing your consciousness and coming to terms with what has happened in the past and seeing it differently and working like that, that's when things change permanently. It's not just a temporary change or a surface change. And people have also very much want a quick fix, and there's no quick fix about it. These instantaneous healings that one hears about, are not the norm. They happen once in a blue moon to somebody. And what we have to do is the work. We have to have the discipline, and we have to practice and practice and practice in order to understand these laws of life and constantly be vigilant about how we're applying them in our day-to-day life. People come to me with all kinds of, whether it's, I call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll, whether it's health, wealth, and relationships. It doesn't matter what the issue is. The principle stays the same. So if you go back to principle, it can deal with all the issues.
Exactly. What I was going to lead into next was, is there an expiry date on the work that you do? And I think you've just answered that, in that if you let your consciousness slide, then you're going to end up back with a similar style of issue, if not the same issue again, just repackaged. So I follow on Instagram. I'm trying to get my body sorted and my mobility and my flexibility and, my general health better because of various issues I've been having. And I follow this group called Functional Patterns, and they're amazing. And I thought to myself this morning that you're dealing with a lot of dysfunctional patterns, really. You're dealing with dysfunctional patterns in people's consciousness, really. And it's just about, actually, I don't know if it's in people's consciousness. Maybe I need to correct that, or you can help me understand that better. Perhaps the consciousness is the pure slate, really, and the perfection. Perhaps you're dealing with the dysfunctional concepts that people have. Maybe you could just help me clarify that now.
Well, we talk about my mind and your mind and my consciousness and your consciousness. So we talk about as though we have an individual consciousness. The overall divine consciousness is the consciousness of perfection. So we then load the data from lifetimes, from this lifetime. So we've got a whole database of information that sits in our gut brain cells which we call the subconscious. And as soon as we have a trigger, that comes up and we react according to our old patterns. And then we say, well, you know, that's what I say about consciousness. It's this individual mindset, conscious concepts, conditioning, belief systems. That's right, that's wrong, this is good, that's bad, this is high, that's low. And we don't realize that there are polarities in this dimension. There have to be polarities in order for manifestation to happen, for things to be. Otherwise, none of us would be here if there wasn't polarities of life and polarities within the body. And so we've got to come to a place where we work within the parameters of polarities, but in perfect balance and in perfect peace, with no emotional attachment to what the mind, our mental aspects are telling us. There's overall divine mind, which is overall divine consciousness, and that never changes. Our thoughts change all the time. We have 1 million different thoughts a day. Those must change to come into alignment with the perfection of the divine mind that we are essentially.
What type of range of issues when people think of a spiritual fitness coach or whatever you would like to call yourself, someone who helps someone, because really I see this as spiritual fitness because I don't just maintain spiritual health, I'm like full on spiritual fitness because I train every day. I'm disciplined, I'm like a spiritual comrades marathon runner. So, it takes dedication. And what range of issues would you say that you deal with, or is it a type of issue? What can people, somebody might think, oh, well, maybe this isn't in the range of spiritual health. What can you say to that?
It doesn't matter what the issue is. It doesn't matter one iota what the issue is. It can be to do with wealth, relationships, health. Do I move to a different country? Do I move to a different house? How am I going to sell this house? How am I going to approach my partner? What about my relationship with my mother? It doesn't matter what the issue is. We go back to principle. What is the principle and what is the truth behind what these surface issues are? And when we can learn about those laws and those principles, we always go back to principle every time. And when we understand the law of one and these spiritual principles of as above, so below, as within, so without, to give you an example, I just go back to what is the truth here? What's the principle here? And I go straight to that. So a person can sit on opposite me and they can waffle on for an hour about their problem and all of the issues around that problem. And while they are talking, I'm making polite noises and I'm heading straight into, so what is the truth about what they're saying? What is the truth? What is the truth here? What is the principle involved? And when you can get to that, you are getting to source. You're getting to source energy, and that is the creative energy that makes everything that we see and feel in this cosmos. Source energy, source light, source sound, source color just neutralizes everything. And it just irritates me when I hear people saying, oh, well, the universe has got this in store for me, and the universe has let me down, and I wonder what the universe has got in store for me next. And I tell them the universe doesn't give a damn, actually. The universe is a neutral, energetic of creative principle. It doesn't favor anybody. It doesn't choose one over the other. It is a natural, normal law of life. So don't put your responsibilities onto the universe. Take responsibility for your own life, your own choices, your own decisions. But if you learn the laws of life and the principles of energy based on the movements of energy, light, sound, color, everything changes for you permanently. not just temporarily, permanently.
Yay! Okay, now before we head into it, I want to just do our disclaimer here for anybody who might be listening. I've jotted down a couple of points, and Linda, you're welcome to jump in if I've forgotten any. First of all, this is a no one size fits all thing, and it's never the same twice. Secondly, this is not medical or psychological advice, so please be advised of that. We don't need to get into your diagnoses and your details and your long lost everything. That's got nothing really to do with things. So, as Linda was just saying now, she doesn't need all the details really. It's, when you come into a consult with her, yes, obviously discuss what's worrying you and, she'll ask you a couple of questions. But really, you're not going to be sitting and talking for an hour about the stuff, the drama on the stage. You really want to cut past that and get through that. The sessions are not recorded. This is just done now as an example so that people can see this. Um, uh, the issue that I'm going to be talking through with my mom today is actually something that I am dealing with. So that is a real thing. It's not a sort of like a made up thing. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm wanting to get a better understanding. So I've specifically not been using the tools that my mom's been teaching me for how many years? Because I've been doing this for, I think since my 20s, I've been doing courses with my mom. So, and she's a phenomenal teacher. And I'm so glad. I mean, I chose really well as for a mother for this life. So I'm so happy because I couldn't have had a better mentor in terms of spiritual understanding and clarity. So I've specifically avoided using those tools. It'd be very difficult. I mean, I think last night I had Metatron talking to me about a whole lot of stuff, and I'm like, shh, shh, shh. I'm having my consult tomorrow. Got to have something to give the people.
Well,
So the wonderful thing about working with Linda is that she does empower you to use these tools. They're practical. And like I said, it's like working on your fitness. If you know what the tools are and how to use them and how to apply them every single day, and especially before the shit hits the fan, don't wait for the shit to hit the fan. I think you might agree with me there, Mom. People wait for the
that's
real shit to hit the fan before they get in touch with you. And yes, you can do that. If you've waited, don't go and think now, okay, shit, but now I can't phone because, the shit's really hitting the fan. No, the whole idea though is to have spiritual maintenance so that you're living a life that is in harmony and rhythm and not doing roller coaster ride, So, enough said. I don't know if I left anything out there.
Can I give an example of that waiting until the shit hits the fan? I mean, I had a guy years ago who was stage 4 liver cancer, and he made an appointment and he came, and when he walked in, I thought, oh gosh, this is the Walking Dead walking in here. Tall, grey, he was absolutely grey. And he said, I've come because my wife sent me. I don't know what you do, but I'm just here to please my wife. He had an hour with me. I spoke to him. He was an engineer. He cried when he got what I was saying to him about the fact that he just needs to change the way he sees himself and his life and change his thinking about his situations. And he phoned me a few days later to say, I just need to alter our last appointment because I just said, well, look, come back again. I just want to see how you go. I made a second appointment with him. He said, I have to change that because I've got to have, he was on his last stages of chemo and I have to have one more chemo. But I must tell you that when I went for chemo, after I saw you, all my chemo tests, 5 of them that they take before they give the chemo were over 1,000% improved.
I mean, I don't even know
But he said,
how do you even measure that? That's
I
incredible.
couldn't tell them about you because they wouldn't have understood. But then they just increased my chemo for that. I said, oh dear. So I heard months later that this man was running 10 kilometers a day. And that was just simply getting him to change his perspective, getting him to understand that the body renews itself all the time. Why is it taking on the old patterns? Because the consciousness hasn't changed. And I've said to people recently that, you don't have to wait until, you know, everything's gone wrong and then phone me, help, help, help. So I've encouraged people now to have a monthly lesson, just a monthly lesson. And I was saying to someone just this morning, she said, well, do you have to have a problem? I said, no, you don't have to have a problem. This is a lesson, and we can talk about anything to do with the spiritual path and the tools that we can use to improve our whole experience here. So there you have it.
Fantastic. We're going to stop the recording now and head on into the nitty-gritty.